Nobel Prize was about the non locality of the universe, meaning that, well, in the sense that distance doesn't really exist on experience. And I came across this documentary from National Geographic that there were Harvard professor. They went to the Amazon jungle to experience ayahuasca with his graduate students, with all the EEG equipment on his brain, his computer, and instrument to kind of measure the brain wave while the professor was on ayahuasca. It turns out to be the brain wave was on the gamma region, which is.
All right, welcome everyone to episode number 12 of Talks with Rasmus. I have PK here with me. How are you doing?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, good. PK is one of the founders of Plant Medicine Thailand, and we have known each other for maybe, I don't know, a year and a half-ish, a little bit more than a year at least. We met each other when I joined one of your ceremonies, ayahuasca ceremonies, in I think it was July last year. And since then we have sort of gotten to know each other on and off. We haven't spoken that much, but at least we've been around each other. And for me, I'm very curious. I've my own, what to say, transformation healing process, and I've witnessed other people with this plant medicine and ayahuasca. So I'm very curious to hear your story and how you got into plant medicine, and just want to hear more about your knowledge around the topic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So why don't you start a little bit? So how old are you? Where are you born? And just basics of.
Okay, sure. First of all, my name is Kay, and most people call me PK because P in Thailand is in Thai is like the older brother.
The older brother, yeah.
So I was born in Bangkok and born and raised there until my undergrad degree, and then I went to the States to study some more. So my study was mostly in science because as far as I can remember myself, wondering about the world, like why all this, why we have something instead of nothing, why do we have this, why we have the sky, we have the tree, we have everything that we experience here. I start to wonder, and someone told me that, well, if you want to know about the truth of the universe, you should study science. So that's kind of how I got into science. It's kind of fun, be able to play with numbers and prediction and equation, that kind of thing. It's kind of fun. But the more I learn about science, obviously it's very useful. But I started to notice that science is not really honest about wanting to know why all this existence. But they mainly more concerned about how the universe works, how the law of the nature works, so that we can make use of that. You can make buildings, make cars, make computer, whatever it is that is useful to our life, which is obviously very useful, but still doesn't really answer my question though. But as a byproduct of that, when just by studying science, one of the classes that I got was in quantum mechanics, which is a part of the modern physics. You think about physics, they're like classical physics. When they talk about Newtonian, everything is deterministic. You can calculate if you know the initial condition, the properties, and you can calculate the future of pretty much everything. But quantum mechanics changed all that. They said that no way, you can't really predict anything with that amount of certainty. There's a lot of uncertainty in that, and I think that's really got me curious about pretty much the fundamental of reality is the double slit experiment in quantum mechanics, that they try to demonstrate if light is a wave or particles, but it turns out to be both. And how come you prove one experiment for one thing to be both wave and particles? And it turns out that the thing that play the most influential factor in that experiment is is the observer.
Observation.
If you have the observer, if you have a conscious observer in that, the experiment result going to change according to that consciousness.
That's so crazy. And
Right.
I think last year's Nobel Prize in physics
Yeah.
was that, right?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
feel like that's like I'm from Sweden. Nobel Prize. It's like
Of course.
I just like wow, that's a game changer. I feel like a big acknowledgement for the world in a way.
Right. There was that Nobel Prize was about the non locality of the universe, meaning that in the sense that distance doesn't really exist. It may sound weird, but it's kind of like that. When we think that okay, you and me about a meter away, or someone like 100 kilometers away, they make no difference. That's kind of what the Nobel Prize was from.
I'm gonna throw something out there. A question I've been thinking about last few days is it speed of light or speed of observation?
Well, observation has no speed really.
Okay.
Yeah.
But does speed travel?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Isn't it I feel like it's an observation of the different. I'm a rookie, but.
Well, the speed of observation. It's strictly speaking, it will still be limited by the speed of light, because when you observe something, you need a light to kind of catch your eye or catch the instrument or something like that. So still being limited by the speed of light. But if we think of observation in other terms, like your thought, your perception. If you think about the moon right now, you can be in the moon like in an instant, right? So that has nothing to do with the speed. So, but that's not count as an observation though. Yeah, but the whole point of this is that quantum mechanics was really the first thing that got me thinking about the C word, which is the consciousness. It is the reason that I call it C word is because it's not something that physicists like to talk about, because they don't feel very comfortable, because they don't have an equation, they don't know how to explain what consciousness really is. But it really got me turn my spotlight into consciousness instead. So like, wow, okay, if I want to understand the universe itself, maybe what I need to focus on instead of those fundamental particles or quantum field, maybe I should focus on consciousness and see what that's all about. And then at that time, it turns out to be that I came across this book called Biocentrism by Robert Lanza. He's a frontier scientist in stem cell research. So definitely he's top-notch scientist, and he writes this book about biocentrism, as the name suggests, that biology is the center of everything in his book. So if we compare that to the classical belief or classical way of thinking in science, we believe that there's a Big Bang gave rise to matter or antimatter, and stars and planets. One planet formed by accident, chemical accident, life forms, right? Once life forms, and then consciousness comes. So that's kind of the mainstream way of thinking in science. But in that book, they said, well, it's actually the opposite. It was the consciousness first, then the universe after. Well, it's kind of weird to think of that, but if you be honest about yourself, okay, right now you're conscious and you notice everything in the universe. You notice this bench, you notice all the grass, the tree, the sky, and everything. It's kind of like being all the time with you 24 hours, and people tend to take it for granted. But if you think about it, okay, now you have consciousness and you notice everything in the universe. But what if you all of a sudden you lost your consciousness? Maybe someone hit you in the head, or you get an anesthesia, and then you lost your consciousness. What happened with the entire universe? For you, the entire universe pretty much disappeared. So no consciousness, no universe, and there is no way for you to prove that the universe would ever exist when you lost your consciousness. Right? So things like the rainbow, for example. Okay, when we see rainbow, people think that there may be something in the sky for us to see, but actually the rainbow was never that. If you have, the rainbow is there because we have our eyes to observe, and everybody sees rainbows slightly differently. and there's no way to tell, exactly what the rainbow is like. And there's another kind of fun question, like if there's a big tree fall in a forest with no one to observe, would there be a sound? Right? So people.
Did the tree really fall?
Well, I mean, yeah. Let's say if the tree did fall, but if there were no one around to observe, would there be a sound of the tree falling? Well, most people probably say, oh, of course, yes, because it doesn't matter if you have anyone observing or not. But if you think about it, the definition of sound is the density wave of the air, right? It's just changing intensity of the air in sequence, nothing more. But the reason we perceive that as a sound because we have our ear, right? And the job of the ear still is just a drum to receive that variation in density changes, and the ear will turn that into electrical signal into the brain, and it's up to your brain to interpret that as the sound. So the sound doesn't really exist outside of our brain at all. So if there's no brain or no consciousness, there'll be no sound. So even the tree fall, there'll be no sound. So pretty much everything in our life is like that too. Everything that we see, we think we see with our eyes. Still, our brain is a lump of meat that's in a dark, wet skull that never see a light of day. The only thing that the brain knows about is electrical signal from all your senses. That's it, and it's up to the brain to interpret what that means. That's why when people are under influence of psychedelics, people often say that, well, I can hear light, I can feel color, I can taste the sound, because the way that your brain interprets the signal changes. They kind of cross talk between different regions of the brain.
I never thought about that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, that's why psychedelic itself is a wonderful tool to understand our own consciousness.
So what do you think about manifestation then? Like, is the world real, and is it a collective manifestation in a way?
I think it's the latter. It's the collective manifestation. It's something that you probably can have a glimpse of that if you live in one country for a certain amount of time, and then you change to a different country. You notice that even though in that country they still have buildings, have houses, have car, have food and people, virtually doesn't feel very different. But you know that something is very different. The energy, the feeling, the culture, the way people interact, the way people talk, the way that people see value of something is totally different. So it's just for example, okay, I've been living in the States for a number of years, and after a while you kind of get used to the Western way of living, and then when you come back to Thailand, and if you just forget to take off your shoes, going to the house, people are gonna be freaking out, like, whoa, you can't do that, you gotta take off your shoes. People see values like so differently. But then when I was in the States, and if I take off my shoes to go into someone's houses, they'll say, no, you don't take off your shoes, it's not clean, we don't, it doesn't smell nice or something like that. It's like it's just totally way of living. And when with these small things, and people perceive things very differently, the vibe of the entire country changes. Same thing for temples or sacred places. At the beginning maybe it's just a patch of grass or just a piece of land, that's it. But then when people start to come to a certain place to worship, to put their energy in, to put their beliefs in, the energy will just they're going to get accumulated and form and to be like an energy vortex in that area. So that's why temples, the older the temples, the stronger the energy, and when people enter that space, they can definitely feel something is different here. So I would say that the reality itself is a manifestation of the collective consciousness, or the collective observer, I would say. Yeah.
That's so interesting. It's interesting. Okay, so I'm sure we're gonna get into more of those topics. I just want to sort of catch your journey a little bit. So you were working as a scientist for a while?
Yeah.
In the US?
Well, both in the US and in France.
In France, okay.
Yeah. When in the States, after I graduated, I worked as a postdoc for fusion technology for a little bit, and then moved to France, to south of France, to move to work in a nuclear research center, working on the nuclear safety features and kind of thing.
And how was that?
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
A lot of fun,
A lot of fun. Yeah, different culture, and particularly the differences that I work with when I work in the States. I mostly work on the experiment side of things.
Yeah.
You know, you get hands-on, the equipment, the instrument. You get to run up and down the stairs to check on the equipment. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But when I was in France, I work computationally. I work on computer writing codes and something
so
like
you're
that.
a programmer?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
What language? C#?
I began with Fortran, which is like a super old language, Fortran 77, Fortran 90, and then moved up to C++. Yeah, and then I stopped after that.
Yeah.
I don't even know right now what programming language people are using. People talk about Python or anything.
Yeah, Python.
I kind of get into that a little bit, but it's just too busy.
Yeah. I get it. Cool. So and then you moved back to Thailand, Bangkok, I guess.
Well, no. Anywhere but Bangkok.
Anywhere but
Yeah, that's kind of what I learned when I was in the States. When I first in the States, anywhere in town, I live in Madison, Wisconsin. Anywhere in town, you can go there. No more than it won't take more than 15 minutes by bicycle. So like it's super convenient. But when it was in Bangkok, from my house to my university, it's only like 11 kilometers away, but it took me 2 hours. So back and forth, that 4 hours, losing time in the traffic, and I didn't know that I was losing that much time until I got in the States. I came into realization that damn, I lost 4 hours of my life. For how long? For 10, 20 years without me knowing, calculating that I lost years and years of my life, and
just
commuting. Realized that anywhere but Bangkok. Yeah, that's why after I came back to Thailand, it happens that we have a relative in a city called Phitsanulok, which is about halfway between Bangkok and Chiang Mai, pretty much right in the middle of the country. So I got a job as a university lecturer there and worked there for a little while.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And then at some point, you decided to, or how did you discover sort of ayahuasca? I know a little bit of the story, but not the full one.
Yeah. If I go back to that quantum mechanics that was first got me curious about the word consciousness, then I start to do more research about consciousness. Okay, how do I understand this better? There's so many books writing about it, and everyone write about it differently. But I kind of like to have like hand-on experience. And I came across this documentary from National Geographic that there were Harvard professor. They went to the Amazon jungle to experience ayahuasca with his graduate students, with all the EEG equipment on his brain, his computer and instrument to kind of measure the brain wave while the professor was on ayahuasca. It turns out to be the brain wave was on the gamma region, which is considered like a very high wavelength, a very high frequency, like only see from serious meditator or high priests who are on deep meditation on that. So ayahuasca helped a common people who had no meditation experience to be able to achieve that gamma wavelength on the brain. I was like, wow, this is fascinating. And then I started researching, so why can I get the experience from ayahuasca? And the first time I went to the Netherlands first, because first of all, it's closer to Thailand, and the flight was cheaper, and I kind of feel safer because I just came back from France. So at the time, I still feel like Europe was my home. So going to Europe for me was feeling a lot more easy for me. So I went to the Netherlands at the time. I think it was 2016 or something.
Okay.
At the time, ayahuasca in the Netherlands was quite popular because there was no law enforcement over there. So yeah, many people do ayahuasca, and I did my first 2 ceremonies over there.
Okay, and how were they? And what were the outcome?
Oh, it was interesting, but I wouldn't say it's life changing though. My very first ayahuasca experience. By the way, the setting was in the countryside in the south near Eindhoven, south of the Netherlands. A beautiful scenery though. In a small house, next to a park, which is super beautiful. My very first ayahuasca ceremony, and it was served by a couple who the man was a former policeman in a squad team. So he was like more an action-oriented police that they break into houses or they kind of they go into the scene, right? The SWAT team, and the reason that he served ayahuasca because the job that he does, with the action-oriented, he get to see the crime scene firsthand. You got to see dead people and people committed suicide or seeing that most people are not supposed to see. He got to see that for many and many years until he started to have this PTSD.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and then he felt like he had to get himself out of this, and he went to Peru and seek treatment from ayahuasca, and he basically treated being cured from his PTSD by ayahuasca, and he feels so grateful for the medicine, and I feel like it's his job to spread the medicine as well. So I was very lucky to be able to sit with him. Super kind. Yeah. And then my very first ayahuasca experience was pretty much like an experiment because my mind was still very much a scientist. So I like to know everything, every step that my body starts. Well, not mentally. I take my mental note and I went, okay, this is what time I start drinking, and this is how I feel now. This is how my stomach feeling this, or now my body temperature goes up. Now I feel uncomfortable, and how do I move my body in order to feel better? So it's just basically collecting data in my brain. So I just basically too busy in my brain trying to understand that. But there was still a moment that I saw something. I have this vision of some light above my head somewhere there. And for whatever reason, I felt like, well, this is where I want to go. This is where I want to go. And it's probably similar to when people have this near-death experience and they start to see like a tunnel of light, and somehow they feel like this is where they need to go. So it's kind of similar to that. So I had that feeling that I need to go to that light somewhere here. But my body was so heavy at the time. So heavy, like, oh damn, how do I get to that when I feel this much weight in my body? And I realized that the reason I had this feeling was because of my ego. Of my ego holding me down.
Very
like
deterministic.
Like so the mindset of like I know everything. That kind of mindset. It's a trap. It's kind of got me super heavy. Like
I feel sorry for the science a little bit. Those that are like this is so deterministic.
Right, exactly. So and then I felt like, well, this is something. If I want to be able to go further, I need to get rid of that egoistic mind. And that was my intention for the second ceremony the next day. So my second ceremony was I don't care if I get to understand this or not, but I want this experience. So I need to do everything that I can to completely drop my ego. I don't care if I know or don't know anything at all. So, and it turns out to be quite successful. I be able to let go and surrender more on the second ceremony, and then I was able to go deeper and experience a lot of things. And what I felt at the time was, it felt like my past life being a lot of things, starting from being a tree, being the insects, being a horse, or something like that. Yeah, it was profound.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that experience.
That's awesome. Did you have any sort of cleansing? Did you have any sort of like trauma stuff coming back to you, or something you were working through? Or was more curiosity?
Well, at the
or
time,
understanding?
no. At the time, no. But recently, just a few years back, yeah, there's a lot of things
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you know I have been through challenging relationships.
Yeah.
That's been quite a personal journey for me. But in before that, there was none.
No, mostly
Yeah.
just curiosity.
Yeah,
Wanting to
mostly just
understand.
curiosity.
Yeah, it's just interesting. All right, so those two ceremonies, and then at some point you and Pidao
Mhm.
decided to sort of, and Koi as well.
No, we
just
we
Pidao
haven't met her yet.
initially. Okay.
Yeah.
Started to wanted to serve this medicine here, or
Well,
how does that work out?
Not exactly that. You know, after the Netherlands, the first two ceremonies there, I came back and just lived life as usual. You know, being a materialist, not so much in spirituality at all. And then about 2 or 3 years after that, I was planning to South America. Because you know the person who served me the medicine in the Netherlands, he told me a lot that while in Peru, you know, the experience can be quite a bit more intense, right? So, and for whatever reason, I just wanted to go there. At the time, I think I don't remember the year exactly, maybe 2019, maybe, yeah, 2019. I plan to go to Argentina to see the solar eclipse. Yeah, but I just want to make a stop in Peru or something. But it turns out that that trip was all about Peru. So just spent time in Peru and did another 3 ayahuasca ceremony there in the south, and that was quite a profound experience. So I got vision of being in an alien spaceship or something like that. But that was quite intense for me. But as it was actually even more intense for Dao. So when she came back to Thailand after Peru, about a month after, she had this vision that she needs to go to Peru again.
Oh, wow.
Just only a month after. So she went there by herself and experienced that, and I felt like I need to go and make sure that she's safe there. So we basically end up spending 4 months in Peru.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
In 2019?
In 2019.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, spent 4 months there. And
So
we
2
did,
trips to Peru.
yeah. All in that just a short period of time. And during that time, we didn't have any agenda or goal or what we try to do. Basically, just spend a moment that and time it that we interact a lot with medicine, with ayahuasca, with San Pedro, with cacao. So yeah, and that's where I got into the kirtan music circle.
Oh, yeah.
It was for me to be able to pick up my music for the first time after more than 20 years, because I felt like it's so powerful. Yeah, with the cacao and singing, just so powerful. It's something that I feel like, wow, this definitely something that I can bring back to Thailand and just have people experience this transcendental singing. It's just so simple, and that was kind of like my sort of mission that, okay, if I come back to Thailand, it will be the first thing that I would do. And I didn't know where to start. In Phitsanulok, not many people really understand what we do, and it happened that we met someone in Peru and they recommended us, well, Chiang Mai, there's this community of people who are very much into spirituality, and it's just, okay, we came to Chiang Mai and we get to meet, and that's why we met like at that time, and we started this music circle with the cacao, and then with San Pedro, something, and then we start from there.
All right. And the are you okay with the sun?
That's okay.
And then so the decision to sort of start serving ayahuasca here in Thailand, it can't be a sort of easy decision. I mean, it's not in my world. Sort of because you need to bring the ayahuasca from South America, right? And it's a bit of a thing, and may or may not be legal here in Thailand at that point. So
well, we wouldn't be too concerned about that, because if people talk about, well, DMT is illegal, Well, I can understand that if you have the free agent DMT or pure DMT, that can be illegal. But if you talk about anything that contain DMT will become illegal, that means everyone, every human being, every animal, every plant, they're all gonna be illegal because they all have DMT in it, right? So I don't think it makes sense at all. And we just make tea out of plants. And in Thai culture, you know, you making herbal tea out of any plant. It's a set generational culture that we've been doing this for hundreds of thousands of years. So we don't have any problem.
So what do you make of ayahuasca and this plant medicine? Like what do they do with us in the body? Like how you talk about DMT and what does DMT do?
Okay.
Yeah.
There are many hypotheses about this, but one of the neuroscientists, his name is Andrew Guillermo, he talks about DMT being sort of like a regulator in our brain, so that our brain can receive information from different frequencies. So basically, I think in classical way of thinking, most scientists probably think that okay, our brain is a hard drive. So your memories and your knowledge, your perception, everything is in that lump of meat, right? But then when you learn new things will come, and then your brain will process, remember, and just try to make sense of that. But it doesn't really explain everything, though. You know, profound knowledge like those that Einstein came up with, Nikola Tesla, or many of the scientists, or even recently the scientists who discovered the PCR procedure to test for COVID. They said that those knowledge just came out of nowhere without his or their prior knowledge about that. So another way that actually I find it make more sense is that of course our brain is capable of processing something, but the bigger part of that is our brain to be the ability of our brain to receive information from something bigger. We don't know exactly where, but it's more like our brain is a TV receptor or a radio. So if you were to say that, okay, there's a TV there and there's a Mickey Mouse in there, if you try to open up the TV and try to look at the back and see where the Mickey Mouse is, that would be silly, right? So same thing for our knowledge. Even though you crack out Einstein's brain, you know, his theory is not there. You know, all his knowledge probably not there. And from something else that just happened to be that our brain received that information and turns out and manifest that into the way that we can understand. So DMT.
Have to move a little bit. Like, all right, just had to move spot there, sun. So DMT.
Right. So since we all already have a trace amount of DMT in our brain, actually it's not that small. Just maybe just last year, a group of scientists just discovered that the amount of DMT in our brain is not that small at all. It's actually in the same amount comparable to serotonin in our brain. So it's not that small at all. And
it compares to ayahuasca, if you know, is it? I mean, seems like ayahuasca and it's like overload of DMT, or is it really helping release DMT?
Well, it adds into our brain. But we definitely are capable of producing our own DMT, and we can kind of play around that with breath work. If you breathe, you know, in a certain way, you can increase the amount of DMT. Or if you spend time in a dark room or in a dark cave or something for a number of days, the level of DMT will
meditation
increase.
as well.
Absolutely. That's why when people meditate or spend time in a dark room, they can start to see light and start to see, you know, what most people say like hallucination, but I kind of don't like that word. So let's back to DMT. That this hypothesis that what DMT does to our brain is a kind of like consciousness regulator. So right now we all have a certain amount of DMT in our brain. That's why we are conscious. That's why we are capable of perceiving everything that we see. We can see the sky. We can see everything around. So if you change the level of DMT in your brain, it's like you change the receiver channel. Like right now, you are watching TV on this channel, and when the DMT changes, like you change channel.
Tuning up the frequency.
Absolutely, yeah, for your brain to be able to receive a different frequency. That's why people
turning up to the gamma state, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So your brain will be capable of receiving frequency from a different level of reality, of so-called reality, so that people can experience, have a spiritual experience, or experience like spirit rhymes. People start to see spirits or anything like that. So because they kind of live in a different plane of existence. So ayahuasca kind of allow us, because it's changing the DMT level in our brain. But what unique about ayahuasca is that, well, if you just have free agent DMT and you inhale with the correct techniques, and that can kind of get your mind shift into a different sense of reality as well. That's why some people feel like, in DMT people feel more real than real, anything like that. But it's only a very short amount of time, mostly around 10 to 15 minutes. So it's still difficult to make sense of that. Like for example, if you live here in Thailand for all your life, and then all of a sudden you get transported to, let's say, Iceland, the land that you never been there before for only a short period of time, you're gonna be surprised, like, oh, where is this? And all of a sudden you get shot back into Thailand again. It will be difficult for you to really tell, what Iceland is all about. It's too short for you to make sense of that. So that's why ayahuasca is different from just inhaling DMT, because it extends the experience from 10 to 15 minutes to like 6 to 7 hours. But still, there's still main difference between the two. But the reason that ayahuasca can do that is because it has the MAOI, or monoamine oxidase inhibitor. The reason why that is important, because the monoamine oxidase in our stomach, once you ingest DMT, DMT gonna get broken down by the monoamine oxidase. So the job of ayahuasca, the MAOI in ayahuasca, is to stop the monoamine oxidase from working, meaning that the DMT in the tea will be able to, will have time to get absorbed into your bloodstream, eventually go to your brain, and that's why it lasts longer.
Interesting. So ayahuasca is many times called the vine of death. Why is that?
Because many people experience excruciatingly difficult physically and mentally ayahuasca. The reason because of the MAOI in ayahuasca. So the job of the MAOI not only stop the digestive enzyme from in your stomach from working, but the side effect of that is, when your body doesn't know how to digest, meaning that whatever food you have left in your stomach, in your intestine, your body gonna interpret like something that you're not supposed to eat, something that is indigestible, and your body will send a signal like you have food poisoning. And if you ever have one, the feeling of having food poisoning is not pretty. You feel super sick, you feel like you have a super high fever, you feel nauseous, you feel like you're gonna die. So that's pretty much why this is a unique feeling in ayahuasca. But I feel that it is very useful, because that feeling will force you to surrender. You feel like there is nothing else you can do but just surrender to experience. And the moment you surrender, the medicine gonna work better with you.
And how does it work with like trauma and stuff? Because I feel like I've done some vipassana, right? And in vipassana, I feel like it's energies moving in my body, want to sort of come out a little bit. And then you have like the kundalini, like the energy centers, the chakras, right? And you have the lower, and the lower chakras is more about sort of death and survival, and then sexuality. And I feel like the ayahuasca is working with those energies a lot to help you clear out those. Am I interpreting wrong?
That probably can be the case too.
Yeah.
But the way I see that is actually much simpler than that.
Yeah.
That still will be like the consequence of the feeling of dying. That's kind of more connected to the name Divine of the Death, because when people have near-death experience, or when people get very sick, like they feel like they are about to die, a lot of flashback gonna come back into their mind. Maybe their brain start to secrete more DMT or anything like that, and when those memories come up, that's where people realize how much people in their lives mean to them, and how important certain period of their lives can be. So it's basically like a life review before you die, basically. And ayahuasca can bring you into that state when you feel like you are about to die. Memory is just gonna flash back, gonna come back, and even it has no discernment between good memory or bad memory, trauma or delightful or anything. It make no difference. Everything just gonna come up, and when things that come up, you're gonna get a second chance to see that event again, because things that turned out to be traumatic events for most people is the place that they don't want to go. Maybe it's too difficult for them to process, and they do their best to get themselves away from that event because it's too difficult for them. And the more you try to get yourself away from that, the more you try to hide yourself away from that, the more difficult for you to understand or even heal that trauma, because you don't want to talk about it. But ayahuasca just bring that to your face. Hey, have a look at this again and see, this is what happened, and it will allow you to understand this is what happened. Once you can understand that in a different point of view, maybe the traumatic event at the time happened to you when you were younger and you were in the eyes of the victim. So victims seeing that event, they see one thing, but the observer seeing that same event, they see the other. So now once you get a second chance to see that event again in the eye of the observer, you're gonna understand that event better. Maybe you got abused when you was a child and you feel really angry for that people that hurt you, but once you see that, well, maybe that people who hurt you, they have something else in their lives too, and they didn't know how to express, and that's how it turned out. And it kind of like you understand that. And once you understand that, you kind of, oh, okay, maybe it's not so bad at all. And basically that's when it's healed. That's when the trauma gets healed by you understand it, not by forgetting it. Because the trauma, the so-called trauma, it's what it makes you today too. So you cannot deny parts of yourself. So you just need to understand. That's what the medicine helps you to be able to achieve that.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. So now you've been doing, you and Vidal Picoy, and you have a raft there and other people helping out now. You've been doing it for 5 years?
Well, it's like 3-4 years.
3-4 years, okay.
Yeah, depends on where we count.
But
But first we start with group of friends, and then we expand.
It's very interesting. Like, I'm from a business sort of background, and just looking at the demand that you guys have is just incredible. Like, it's crazy. I feel it's encouraging as well, because people are starting to sort of wake up on a broader scale and really start to look beyond their own bodies and situations. So someone that haven't tried ayahuasca and maybe are curious, maybe scared, what would you sort of recommend? What would you say to them at this point?
Okay, don't.
Okay, good.
Very simple.
Yeah.
For anyone who is still feeling scared of ayahuasca, don't.
Okay.
Because that's gonna make it worse.
Okay.
Just I never really talk to anyone to really convince them into ayahuasca, because only those who feel like they're ready. Because it's hardcore. You get closer to that, that's not easy.
No.
Yeah, but for me at the time, I was so curious. it maybe is a kind of calling for me, because my curiosity. That's probably why I get into science in the first place. I want to study, I want to understand what's the most fundamental thing in the universe, something like that. So yeah, my curiosity at the time was so strong that I don't care if I have to die or something, because that's my I felt like it was my life meaning to understand the universe. So if I gotta die and in the end I understand, I feel like it's worth it. So, but if you feel like I'm still under fence, I'm not sure if I'm gonna, how you're gonna feel like that, so don't, because there are other plant medicine that you can get into, and that can be much easier for you. And with that understanding, one day you might feel like you are ready for ayahuasca. So you can start off San Pedro, but I think San Pedro in Thailand probably not exactly easy to find, or mushroom too. But start with play with the dosage a little bit. Start with low dose, like half a gram, and see how you feel, and then like 1 gram. For me, half a gram to 1 gram is very good for meditation. And once you kind of understand that, you can go up to 2 grams, and once you start to get around 3 gram range, you probably would need someone to kind of like being around and make sure that you don't do anything stupid.
Well, I wanted to sort of, it's a good perfect segue, because ayahuasca is only one, is your main, but you do other sort of plant medicine ceremonies, and one very popular one, especially in Bangkok, I understood, is the psilocybin, the magic mushroom, hongo, many different names. What is the magic with the mushroom? I know it's studied in universities all over the world now. It's starting to be quite accepted. What is your take on the magic mushroom, the psilocybin?
For me, I feel like mushroom is actually more difficult to understand than that of ayahuasca, because people often ask, what's the difference? Most people will have experience with mushrooms, and but they don't have experience in ayahuasca, so they often ask, what's the difference between mushroom and ayahuasca? I would say this is spirits. The spirits in the mushroom and spirits in ayahuasca is very different. Even though you get to see visual, you get in hallucination or anything like that, but you have this gut feeling that the spirit that make this communication happen, they're very different. For ayahuasca, I feel like obviously it's feminine spirits that for some reason just make your understanding about what you need to see much more direct and easier to understand. As if when you talk to a mother, a way of a mother communicating with the child is actually quite straightforward, and she has a lot of compassion and understands that this is how you would understand. Some people is better with visuals, some people are better to understand something with feelings, or some people are better with story, and she would find a way to communicate that communication in a way that you would understand. So that's why people often say that they really get a lot from ayahuasca, because of this directedness of the medicine. But for mushroom, it's like you're talking to a grandmaster, and when you talk to a high priest or someone who are very knowledgeable, they don't talk much. They give you a very short answer or something for you to just think about it yourself, right? So
wax on, wax off.
Something like that. So even though the message can be as profound, but it leaves a lot of room for you to kind of make sense of that. So it's a little more vague, may not be as clear, but if your intention is clear of why you're doing this, the message can be quite profound too.
I've been I've done ayahuasca ceremonies, and then I haven't done your mushroom ceremony, but I've done a lot of sort of microdosing on my own with psilocybin, and I find it's like correctional. That's the closest word I can come up with. Like, it's very sort of, this is not true, just straighten yourself out a little bit. And I didn't, to some extent, I feel that in ayahuasca, but my ayahuasca has mainly been about fear and death, and just like panic. But I haven't microdosed ayahuasca. I haven't done. Interesting. So another part of you is the Tai Chi and Qigong. Which for many of my sort of Western listeners, that's a very sort of strange thing, like moving slowly. It's so boring. What are you doing? Only seen in like some karate movies maybe. I'm starting to understand more of that, but what is that? Can you explain more of that?
Yeah, I have to say that my Qigong and Tai Chi journey was a byproduct of my plant medicine experience. So, because I came up from a Chinese family, so I saw my father practice Tai Chi since I was young, and I thought I had exactly the same thought as you do. It's so boring. What does he do there? And he couldn't explain. He just enjoyed doing that, right? But then my experience in Peru at the time was the bufo. So I had an experience with the bufo, and I believe it was the second time. And at that ceremony, it was for the first time that I could feel something in my body moving. Like wow, like there's some sort of a life force feeling that's kind of running through in my body, and somehow I know that this is the thing that keep me alive. And it was the first time for me that I feel like, oh man, the qi that the traditional Chinese medicine talk about is actually real. But now I get to feel it for the first time, and I got super curious about that. Then it happened that in the town of Pisac in Peru, they have this like a Tai Chi school there, and I kind of go there and study a little bit and talk to the teacher about that, and he recommended me to go to Taiwan to study more about this. So then after Peru, I went to Taiwan to study more Tai Chi, and then after coming back, I planned to be in Taiwan for like a month or so, but then the COVID happened, everything locked down. I stranded there for 3 months, so I get to learn a lot of Tai Chi over there. So that was very lucky. And then when I came back, I have an incredible chance to train with Rasmus. He's a world-class Tai Chi master who happened to live in Chiang Mai. So yeah, I was super lucky to be able to spend.
What was his name?
Rasmus.
Rasmus.
Yeah, his last name is Finnish because
he is Finnish.
Well, no, he's by nationality he's Canadian, but he grew up in Australia. So his family from Finland, but he was born in Canada, but he spent his life mostly he grew up in Australia, and now he has his house in Chiang Mai.
Oh, really?
Right. So I was super lucky to be able to spend 3 months in his house, helping him making instructional video and being his partner, and be able to learn a lot from him. That's how I got to understand the internal work of Tai Chi and Qigong in a way that the differences, first of all, the differences between Tai Chi and Qigong, different people say different things. But basically, the word Qigong, Qi is the life force, right? And Gong means work. Basically, any work that you do that involves the life force within you is already called Qigong. That's why there are 10,000 Qigong type of thing, because people can do whatever they want. Right? And Tai Chi is a kind of Qigong as well. So you can call that Tai Chi is a Qigong with martial arts application, something like that. And the reason that they do slow because they want to feel every second that something is slowing in your body. And you learn to move your hand like this, not because you want to be slow, but it's just slow by nature.
Feel the energy.
Yeah, there's a difference between when you move your hand here to here, just by I'm moving my hand. This you're using your muscle, right? But if you use your intention to move your hand, that's feel very different. If you move your hand, it's like you're actively moving the hand, and you can feel that the bicep is working, the tricep, the part of the arm is moving. But if you just let your arm float and just visualize your arm is floating there. This is Tai Chi. This is how people move slow, because they use their intention to send the arm to float.
So it's the sort of the awareness
Yeah.
that moves and not the consciousness.
It's
Or
the awareness.
The awareness moves
Yeah.
and not the cognitive mind.
No.
Not forcing.
No, not forcing.
Yeah.
And the intention will be the guide for your Qi. People say that Yi leads things to Qi. Yi is the intention. Right? So when you start to relax, and your Yi will just guide this energy force to flow from your body down to your fingers. But if you start to tense, if you start to use the muscle, it's like your muscle will start to block the fascia. So we need to understand that Tai Chi is all about fascia or fascia. Fascia is what the Chinese classic call the silver lining. The reason they call it silver lining because if you actually cut the skin open, it's going to be the white layer underneath your skin, and that is the layer of collagen. Just simple web of collagen that runs throughout your entire body. It's the thing that keeps your joints together. It's the thing that hold your organs and everything else together, hold your muscle together.
Your brain communicate with the body, right?
Yeah,
So
and it happens to be the best energy conductor in your body. If you talk about energy conduction in the body, it may sound a bit superstitious or spirituality, but it's basically your electromagnetic energy, the electrical signal. We need electrical signal in our body in order to sense everything. You know, when I touch my hand, and my brain recognizes right away, not because of this touch, because of the skin, turn this touch into electrical signal sent to the brain. So that electrical signal is electromagnetic wave. That's energy. So it happened that the fascia is the best energy conductor in our body. And if you can find a way to make the fascia as happy as possible, happy means not being choked, not being blocked, the energy will flow better. That's why you need to be relaxed.
Yeah, I heard this quote, or I saw this quote the other day or a few days ago. It says, tension is who you think you should be, relaxation is who you are.
Exactly.
And that, like, well, I don't understand it, but it just seems true. Like, yes. That's a present moment as well, right? Just like,
exactly. That's why Tai Chi is so profound that it allows you to be who you are. Just by relaxing that's and amazing. Just use your intention and guidance. You be aware of every movement. Okay, I'm aware that my arm, my hands is here now. Especially when you shift your weight, you already notice that your weight is shifting to my right, my weight is shifting to my left. So that's meditation too. You being mindful with every step that you do. Nothing is ever automatic. It's manually by your intention. And the form itself can be like 20 minutes long, 30 minutes long. So you're being mindful by being relaxed. And when you relax, the byproduct is that the energy flow better. When the energy flow into cells better, your cells going to become healthier. And just by relaxing, your body start healing itself. That's why it's such a wonderful medicine.
That's great. So just a few last questions before we wrap up. I am very sort of passionate about helping the West a little bit to see the Eastern ideas more. Like I born in Sweden, most of my life in the West, right? And now here in Thailand, I just find it so much wisdom in the sort of Eastern traditions, but they're not very sort of respected and almost sort of disrespected in the West. Not even looked at many times. And you've spent a lot of time in the West, so. What would you say sort of to the Western mind that are a little bit maybe stuck or curious or want some answers?
Yeah, take some mushrooms.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, that's very simple. Very simple. Because plant medicine will make you humble. Will make you feel like you are part of something that is much grander.
Yeah.
I could understand because before my experience with plant medicine, I was very much Western minded. Everything is materialist. I feel like I know a lot, and I feel like, everything is deterministic, right? Everything is solvable, and if you know enough, the reason that you cannot solve it because you don't know enough. You need to read more books. You need to, like that. You need to be more active, like that. Just keep my life just feel like too tense, too busy at times, But plant medicine just tell me that, hey, you are just here to live.
Yeah.
We're just here to experience. You are part of something that is much, much bigger. It's not like science wrong. No, science is still correct, of course.
Yeah.
Particularly, quantum mechanics,
Yeah.
even though it's like the most bizarre theory in human history.
Yeah.
But still the most accurate theory.
Yeah.
Bar none. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a upside down pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the science is the bottom of that pyramid. It's like the
well, I would say that the science
it's not,
would be
it's not
like
untrue, but it's like it's so much
just
more.
just something like so tiny.
Yeah.
Compared to the whole truth of everything.
Yeah.
Well, even scientists they admit themselves that the entire universe that we thought we know, we only know that less than 5%. The other part would be like the dark matter. We don't really know what they are. Another more than 75% is like dark energy. We don't even know what they are. We don't even have a definition for it, which is something that we don't know. That's why we call it dark.
Yeah.
Even the best equation we have can only explain less than 5% of the universe. So science is not correct, but just too small. So don't limit yourself. It just this. Yeah, this the one. My all-time favorite movie is Contact, 1997, Jodie Foster.
Okay.
There's a scene that Jodie Foster was a scientist, and this is man who was a priest, and religious man and scientist, when they talk, the scientists say like, how come you believe in God? It's not even that. There's no proof. There's nothing to explain that. Just only words of mouth or anything. How could you devote your entire life for something like that? And he stopped and he asked the scientist like, do you love your father? And in the movie, the scientist she has her father that she loves so much, but her father passed away when she was younger, and she said, of course, I love my father. And the priest said, prove it. She was how do I go from here? So that was profound. And that's why I feel like, well, being materialist is not wrong, but just know that it's not everything.
It's not the answer.
And I feel like if whoever have a direct experience of all this, their perception of reality will change. And often for the better, because most people will become more humble, because you know that you are part of something that is much grander than yourself. And I also believe that every religion, every spiritual belief, they are all based on this direct experience of someone. Maybe it was Jesus, maybe it was Buddha, maybe it was Muhammad or Moses, whoever that was. They all have this direct experience that is so profound, and they feel like they cannot just keep that for themselves, and they need to spread that out. And different culture, different places in the world, they have their different way of interpreting that direct, because it's so difficult. It's just so impossible to explain this direct experience into words. That's why there's so many versions of that. There's a Buddhist version, there's a Christianity version, there's a Muslim version, and that's why it turns to be different religion. But they all talk about the same thing. The direct experience of someone. So I invite you to, have your direct experience, and see what you feel.
Like after my first ayahuasca ceremony, I haven't seen a lot of sort of vision stuff, but just the feeling and like after I was like, God is undeniable. If you want to call it God, like whatever, like it's something way bigger than us, and it's like I cannot. And I would say, because I went into it very sort of naive. I had like a few YouTube videos, and I had some career issues I wanted to solve. But it was so naive, and after that, I would say my search started. Like, what the fuck was that? And that's like, now I'm like 7 years later. I was like, and now maybe 7-8 years later, I'm starting to maybe understand it or let go more or whatever it is. Very interesting. All right, we are 1 hour in. Is there anything more you have on your mind?
Well, I think for now it's good. Otherwise, we can spend another 3 hours.
Yeah,
talking about
definitely.
this.
I'd love to have another conversation. I'd love to dive into. So, Plant Medicine Thailand. If
Plant Medicine Retreat Thailand.
Plant Medicine Retreat
Yeah,
Thailand.
we want to emphasize on the retreat because it's not just the plant itself, but it's the entire ceremony.
Okay.
The energy and the intention, everything has to be in the right place, the right mindset.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great. So, if anyone sort of planning to come to Thailand and want to sort of try it out, where can they find you?
I'll just search for Plant Medicine Retreat Thailand on Google.
Okay. And you are mainly here in Chiang Mai, and then a little bit in Bangkok?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Great. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
Good conversation.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.